Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss some tips for celebrating the Day of the Dead. So the Day of the Dead is a celebration that is held throughout the world. In Voodoo, we have some very special celebrations. Now, I'm going to share with you some things that we do in my lineage, things that I was shown to do by my grandfather and my mysteries for celebrating the Day of the Dead. I do also want to reiterate before we get started that I did do a ancestor veneration webinar where I talked about for 2 hours. I channeled, I mounted, and the spirits talked about how to venerate your ancestors, which that information can be used year round. But this video is going to be about how to celebrate, how to participate in the celebration of the Day of the Dead, okay? I'm very excited because the gates are opening today. The gates are opening. The veil has thinned and the dead are louder than ever today. So, in my practice, in my lineage, usually our days of the dead kind of span across a few days. So it's a little bit different in Mexican culture and in other cultures throughout the world. But in my culture, in my lineage for the most part, today is kind of like the day that the gates start to open. The gates of the cemetery start to open, okay? Today is usually where people will start cleaning today's kind of like the early bird day. So today is the day that people would start to clean the graves and set some offerings and things like that, or take flowers to the graves, so on and so forth. From the 30th through the 2nd of November, from the 30th of October through the 2nd of November is really the major ritual days. So on the 30th, you would clean your whole house, like you're going to be accepting guests is what I was guided to do by my spirit guides. You would clean your whole house like you're accepting guests. On the 31st, the veil falls completely. So that is where it is believed that all of the spirits, and I can tell you it's not just a belief because I've lived it, all of the spirits are able to come and visit, which is the reason why in this country, they have trick-or-treating, because in this country they see death as, they see that a lot of evil spirits are going to come through on the 31st. So usually trick-or-treating, dressing up in costume is usually a way to ward off evil spirits. But in my lineage, it is the 31st is the day that you should be setting out your first offerings for your dead, for your ancestors, for the dearly departed, the dearly departed, those people that you very much knew in life, the dearly departed, your pets, all that kind of stuff. Those are the 31st is the day that you set out your offerings for them. And it is believed that throughout the middle of the night, they are going to visit you. Those are the days that is the day where you visit with them. On the 1st, it is the Day of the Dead. So that is the day that you hold holy, November 1st. You don't do anything else. You just spend time with your dead, because that is the only time that they get to visit you, okay? So your benevolent ancestors, your elevated ancestors, the ancestors that are connected to you, that is the only day that they get to actually visit you full force. You might even see an apparition of them. I myself, one of my first really big celebrations for my ancestors I did in 2018. And I did a big ritual outside. And that night, in the middle of the night, Sam and I could hear clinking of glasses and plates, like there were people eating in our living room, okay? And it was our ancestors actually enjoying the feast of the Day of the Dead that we had set out for them. And funny enough, my cousin came up to my bed and was like, hey, you didn't leave me an offering, because I didn't leave him anything that he would usually like. So I ended up having to get up in the middle of the night and buy him McDonald's because that's what he wanted. So the 31st, like I said, the 30th is a day. Today the gates are starting to open. But by the 30th, you should have your house cleaned, your house cleansed, like you're accepting guests. And on the 31st is when you should start putting out your offerings for your ancestors and leave it out overnight until the next morning. Obviously, if it's food offerings, you want to replace it again on November 1st. Some people in DR do like bread on November 1st for the dead. Okay. And then, but get your dearly departed, like on the 31st, you get your dearly departed the stuff that they would like to eat. Like my grandfather loved fried fish. He loved the Filet-O-Fish from McDonald's, so I get him that on the 31st. And my cousin loves cheeseburgers and chicken nuggets from. So your dearly departed on the 31st is a good day to give them what they want and put it out for them on a table with white flowers. Some people use marigolds because marigolds are associated with the season of the Day of the Dead. So you can use marigolds or white flowers. For your ancestors, it's usually preferred to do white flowers, white carnations. So like I said, our celebrations usually start from like the 30th, but the gate has already started opening today. The 30th to the 2nd. That's in my lineage. Now, if you come from a different culture, that you might have different cultural practices. I know in Mexico, yesterday was the day, I believe, to light a candle for the lost souls. I would suggest keeping a candle lit throughout the weekend for them. So a white candle lit throughout the weekend for them. So on my ancestor veneration webinar, which you can grab the replay of that on my link in bio where I go in depth on that, I talk about lighting 4 candles if you can, 4 white candles throughout the days. And then, that's, like I said, in other cultures, like in Mexico, yesterday, I believe, was the day that they started honoring like the lost souls and things like that. And I think today they honor the animals. But in my lineage, on the 31st is where you honor like everybody that was alive while you were alive. So that means your dearly departed, your pets, anybody who has any lost souls, anything like that. On the 1st is the ancestor day. On the 1st is the day that you honor the ancestors that you didn't know in life. Excuse me, I have to take a sip. So on the 1st, it's recommended to honor the ancestors that you didn't know in life. So on the 1st is where you would make sure that your offerings for your ancestors are out. I would really make sure from midnight on the 1st of November that your ancestral, so that's why some people put it out on the night of the 31st, along with the offerings for their dearly departed, their animals, things like that. And on the 2nd of November is the day that we celebrate the spirits of the cemetery, meaning the beings that help the transition between life and death. So that would be like the Gede spirits. Yes, you can put your dog's offerings somewhere where your cat won't get it. However, keep in mind that if you have another pet and you put down an offering for your pet that has passed, it's very likely that the pet that has passed will share the offerings with your live pet. So it's sometimes my cats will never touch anything on my altar, and then sometimes I will see one of my spirit guides pull them over to my altar, and my cat will start drinking their water, and I'll be like, stop it. So sometimes the spirits on the other side do share. On the 2nd, like I said, is the day that we usually celebrate the Gede spirits and the Baron spirits, the Guerrillas, the Baronesses, some people even honor the Madama on that day, because the Madamas are known to be some of the Madamas are known to be married to Guedeses. You can light one candle. You don't have to light multiple candles, but I usually light 4 candles because the number 4 is the number of the dead. So you can light like 4 candles, 4 white candles for all of them. And you can say like, this is a candle for my dearly departed. This is a candle for my benevolent ancestors. This is a candle for, my elevated ancestors. This is a candle for whatever. Yeah, so on November 2nd, we are having a community ritual, which I posted last night. We are having a community ritual. If you want to join my community ritual for the Baron and Gede spirits, that will also include the Baronesses and the Madamas that are married to the Gede and the Gedelias. Okay. You can also do tea lights. If your altar is really small, you can do tea lights. We talked about that in the veneration webinar. So this is the day to really enjoy. This is the time where it is believed that it is the only time where your ancestors get to be there, like fully, not just in the spiritual realm, but actually walk on earth. So this is the time where they get to actually walk on earth and spend time with their loved ones. So I would highly recommend taking the time to celebrate with them, putting out offerings, any offerings that you can afford. I do have a video on my YouTube channel that you can get that is how to set up an ancestor altar. For your offering altar, it would be very similar. Except, you would have your food, your flowers, your candle, pictures of your dearly departed, or the names of your ancestors, the last names of your ancestor lineages, if you don't know all the names of your ancestors. And they know who you are. So as long as you are saying, I'm putting this out for my benevolent ancestors, I'm putting this out for my dearly departed, I'm putting this out, they will understand. If you want to know more in depth on how to work with your ancestors and how to venerate them throughout the whole year, you can grab my webinar, which is the Ancestor Veneration webinar, which is available on my website, highpriestessmay.com. You are moving. Can you set up the altar in the basement and this divided into the levels like normal? Yes. So some people will set out their offerings on a table, on a white tablecloth or a white table for the ancestors. And some people in some cultures, you would put it on the floor because the floor is considered to be the ancestral realm. Yeah, you can do what works for you, Ilya. Make it work for you. So the ancestor veneration webinar goes very much into detail based on like what you should do in the most perfect situation. But if you need to adapt it to work your situation, that's more than fine. As long as your spirits will be fine with it. As long as you're being honest with what you can do, they will be fine with it. If you haven't grabbed it yet and you want to see it before All Hallows Eve, which technically starts on the 30th, you can grab it on my website. So those are my tips for celebrating the Day of the Dead based on the way that we do it in my lineage. If you want to, you can share how you do it in your lineage in the comments and let me know. I know that in Mexico, the celebrations have already started. They are like the most wild when it comes to celebrating their dead, and I think it's beautiful. I have a friend who's Mexican, and she was like so excited, and she was like sharing with me because she's in Mexico City, and she was sharing with me all the stuff that they're doing over there, and I think it's just so beautiful. They have parades and like all this other stuff that I wish we had. We used to have, and I think in New Orleans, some voodoo saints do parades as well. So maybe we'll bring that back in the future. Somewhere, maybe we'll bring those parades back in Dominican Republic and in New York where we practice voodoo. Do you guys have any questions for me before I get off the live about how to venerate your, how to celebrate the Day of the Dead? If you want to know deeper information about venerating your ancestors, again, like I said, grab the webinar. It is definitely worth your time. It's definitely worth the money. Trust me. It's 2 hours of where I'm channeling information. I'm sharing information that I learned, and one of my Gede spirits mounted me to give information to the collective during that webinar. So when cleaning your home on the 30th, I highly recommend to cleanse your home with cleansing plants, as well as just cleaning your home. So you want to clean your home and then also cleanse your home so that no negative spirits will enter. Because remember, on the 31st, the veil falls completely. So that means all positive spirits and all negative spirits are able to roam the earth. So for the ashes with the ancestor money, I usually will give it away. I will usually throw it to the wind. So that way that energy is received through the wind spirits. So if you're saving the ashes for your ancestor money, you can throw those to the wind. You can put a little bit in a money bowl if you want to. But usually those ashes, in my practice, are thrown to the winds. Yeah, so I would highly recommend cleaning with floor wash, but please be careful with very intense plants. Like myrrh should not be used, because myrrh will keep away even your benevolent ancestors, because it's so strong. So I would not recommend using myrrh. I would not recommend using very strong anti-spirit plants. The strongest thing that I would recommend using for cleaning right before the Day of the Dead is things like rosemary or frankincense, both of which are in my clearing incense and my protection incense. Yeah, so you can do flowers, roses, carnations, rosemary. You can use ruda as well, but ruda is really not, ruda is really more for attracting money and for cleansing from evil eye in my practice. So a floor wash, I would make a bath. In my practice, we make baths for everything. We make baths for our house. We make baths for ourselves. We make baths for everything, right? So spiritual baths, our recipes are not just used on us, but they're also used to clean our home. So you can make floor washes. You can make house sprays with spiritual baths. So you can take salt, sage, rosemary, frankincense, and you can make a floor wash with that. Like I said, ruda is more, in my practice, ruda has always been more to attract money or to break evil eye. So you can boil some salt, you put the salt in last, but you can boil some sage, green sage, some frankincense, some rosemary, and then add some salt to that, and then mop your floors with that for protecting your space. And you will say, this floor wash will keep away all evil spirits and will only allow in my dearly departed and my benevolent ancestors and elevated ancestors. So that's what I would recommend. Burning some, yes, I would definitely recommend burning some copal. We talked about copal in the Ancestor Veneration webinar, which if you haven't grabbed it, I'm telling you, grab it. You want to know all of this information if you are really interested in honoring your ancestors. Burn copal as an offering, but first, before you burn copal for your dead, starting on the 30th. So you start on the 30th. To protect your home, you do the floor washes, you cleanse. On the 30th, you want to cleanse your home. You want to burn some frankincense, burn some rosemary, You can also burn camphor if you want on the 30th. And then, but make sure it's real camphor and not artificial camphor. If it's sticky, it's not real. Okay, our real camphor is more of like a powder, a pressed powder. And make sure you open the doors and windows to clear out any negative energy. Also, some people will put a candle in the windowsill to light the way for the ancestors, so that the ancestors know. So you could put even an LED candle in the windowsill to let the ancestors know that they are welcome to come in. That's kind of like where a lot of people got like the leave the front door light on for the trick-or-treaters, because the lighting a candle in the windowsills usually will represent welcoming in the ancestors. Okay, just make sure it's real camphor. Camphor powder is usually a pressed camphor powder. You can also get camphor plant. You can also get camphor oil, but I would highly recommend black cohosh is really, it's really more of like a mother plant. So yes, it's like maternal protection, but you don't have to, yeah, it's primarily like maternal protection. So like when you're using black cohosh, in my experience, it's really more for like maternal protection, but different cultures use it differently. I don't use it for protection. I use it for other things, for healing, but you can use black cohosh for protection if that's something that you're guided to do. So, what else was I gonna say? So yeah, so on the 30th, start by cleaning and cleansing, right? So clean your house of any dirt, right? Anything your grandma would be like, what is that? Why is there stuff all over your floor? Then burn some frankincense, burn some rosemary or sage, just to clear the vibes in your house. Then you can use salt for making sure that only pure spirits come through, spirits that have good intentions. You can use salt in the doors and windowsills for making sure that only the positive spirits that you want. Like I said, you can also put a candle or an LED candle in your windowsill as well, to starting on the 30th, to signal to your ancestors that you're ready for them to come. To signal to your dearly departed. On the 31st is when you would honor your pets, your dearly departed that you knew in life. Some people even serve their spirit guide altar on the 31st, their bóveda. So that's something that you could do as well, is serve and honor your bóveda on the 31st. You can do that also. Some people do that. And then on the 1st is the day dedicated specifically to your benevolent ancestors and your elevated ancestors, for them to come and visit you, for you to commune with them. So that would be a day that would be beneficial on the 1st, to like not be on social media, not be like doing anything but spending time with your benevolent ancestors and putting out offerings for them and things like that. Maybe spending time in nature, maybe visiting their graves if it's something that you wanted to do. People start visiting the graves and cleaning them up like from today on anyway. And yeah, cleaning your dearly departed's graves are a way to make it, is an offering to them. If you never met your ancestors, it doesn't matter, because they know you. That's one of the things we talked about in the veneration webinar, on how to connect with the ancestors that you didn't know. But on the Day of the Dead, they will find you. If you're trying to honor them any other day, it's when it's recommended for you to do it the way that I showed you on my ancestor veneration webinar. So, trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. So by the 30th, you should clean and cleanse your house. By the 31st, you should put out offerings to your dearly departed, your pets, and anyone that you knew. By the midnight on the 1st, that means like 31st going into the 1st, midnight on the 1st, you should put out your offerings to your benevolent ancestors, elevated ancestors. On the 2nd, if you work with any barons, guedeses, madamas, guedelillas, baronessas of the cemetery, you would put out your offerings for them. Then on the 4th, we have a celebration for Candelo Serife, which I am going to be having a community ritual, which you can join on my website, highpriestessmay.com, by the 1st. Yeah, Sam's gonna put the second ritual up in an hour, but the Gede and Baron ritual is already up on my website. The second one, Sam's gonna be putting it up in a few hours. It's gonna be for Candelo Serife, who is one of our most popular mysteries, who wards off poverty and who also is known for being just a really badass ancestor. So yes, the community ritual, I did it for the people who don't have a relationship with the Baron and Gedeses, but would like to honor their Baron and Gedeses. And I will include your name in my community ritual and in the prayers that I do to them and the offerings that I give to them. Yeah, so you can join my Baron and Gede community ritual. If you don't know how to honor them or don't have time to honor them, you can join the Baron and Gede community ritual, and I will include your name and I will light a candle for them in your honor so that they know that you are honoring them. So the community rituals that I do are a way for you to honor those mysteries that you may not have a relationship with, but you want to give them thanks, to honor them, or you want to start having them know that you want to work with them, okay? And they might visit you afterwards. A lot of people write back to me and tell me that they received a visit from the Loa after they joined the community ritual. That's fine. If you have a relationship with them, but you just don't have time to honor them, you can join the community ritual. That's on the 2nd. You can join that by the 1st. So it's going to be open for registration until the 1st. Yeah, if you don't have the space or the place to honor them, you can also join the community ritual. The community rituals are like a community altar. So if you want to join, you can join. And I will light a candle for every person that joins. A candle will be lit. Yeah, so if they walk with you, this is one of the best ways to honor them, is to join the community altar. Many practices have community altars. Like Santa Muerte has community altars. In Voodoo we have community altars. So the community rituals are for a community altar, and sometimes for certain Loa we will do a fiesta de palos, which is what I'm hoping to do as soon as possible. I had to stop doing them before COVID, and hopefully very soon we'll be able to start doing fiesta de palos again, which is where we do the full party for the community, and we are able to call down the spirits and dance and song and all of that. Like I said, on the 31st, you can also honor your spirit guides. If you want to light candles for your spirit guide altars that day, you can as well, because it's a day where you honor the spirits on the 31st. Like I said, the veil comes down, the gates of the cemetery pop wide open. So that means spiritually, not just physically, but spiritually pop wide open. So if you want to honor those spirits on the 31st, that is the best day to do it. The 31st and the 1st are really the best days. The 30th is really more, I guess you could say, by cleansing and by cleaning and cleansing and protecting your home, the 30th is the day that you honor the spirit of your home. Every single home has a spirit. So if you are cleaning it and you are protecting it spiritually, you are also in a way honoring the spirit of your home where you live. Okay, so every single home has a spirit. That's something that I might actually do a webinar on, that on home spirits. Okay, every single place has a spirit attached to it. That is the spirit of the home itself. Or the building. So you can also, on the 30th, you can also honor the spirits of the land. What some people do is they also will, this is a really good trick that I learned from a witch. Well, a really cool trick that I learned from a witch was to dig apples outside of your house, to dig holes and put apples outside of your house as an offering to the spirits of the land, so that the spirits of the land will protect your home during All Hallows Eve, so that they will not allow any negative spirits near your home. And it's kind of like an offering to any lost spirits, or any benevolent lost spirits, or any benevolent spirits of the land. So I guess I was kind of forgetting, like on the 30th, along with cleaning and cleansing your house, you can put out apples around your property for as many as you're guided to, red apples, because apples are protective around your property. What happens if rats eats the apples? Rats are also spirits of the land. I hate to break it to you, but rats are spirits of the land, okay? Roaches are negative spirits. They're usually psychic attacks. Alexa, stop. Roaches are usually psychic attacks or negative energy that is around. So those are bad spirits. But rats are actually spirits of the land. We had a possum outside, which was a little crazy, that, you know, he's a spirit of the land too. The day for the elevated ancestors would be November 1st, which is the official Day of the Dead. Yes, misericordia. So the official Day of the Dead. Yeah, so like bed bugs, roaches, those are negative spirits. They're usually psychic attacks. Yeah, they're usually psychic attacks. Some ants are like when someone is trying to attack you from many different directions. Spiders are correlated to La Santa Muerte, so I don't see them as a bad thing. A lot of people see them as a symbol of good luck and protection, because spiders eat the bugs that are negative spirits. Usually, roaches are usually also around where demonic entity is. Demonic entities are usually surrounded by roaches, things like that. So you can put apples outside for protection, because if you cut an apple in half horizontally, you have a pentagram, which is the symbol of protection. Spiders eat the negative spirits, which are the bugs, so that's why they're usually considered good luck, as well as ladybugs. Ladybugs actually eat other insects. Gnats are spies. Gnats are spies. Yeah, gnats are spies. So, let me see something. I had a book here that we were talking about. So if you've been dreaming about apples, your spirit guides might be asking you to put apples out for them. Snails are a hit or miss. Some snails are considered bringing slow movement, slow progress. But fruit flies are usually considered, gnats or fruit flies are usually considered spying spirits. And flies as well. Flies are usually spying spirits. Can demonic entities enter your home on the 30th, on the 31st, yeah, they can. If you don't protect, that's why I said make sure that you are cleansing your space, putting up things like frankincense deters demonic entities, negative spirits, all kinds of stuff like that. So on the 31st, we only want to welcome in those that love us and that we love in return. Snails usually represent slow progress, so they could be a sign of, like, you know, your spirit guides letting you know that something that you want is going to be achieved, but it's going to be a slow progress. Yeah, if you want to honor the Baron and the Genesis, you can join my community ritual on this, which is happening on the 2nd. If the rats eat the apples. Rats, like I said, are a sign of... Rats are also earth spirits, right? So, I don't know if you have a lot of rats outside, that it's like traumatizing you. But if they eat it, it's not a bad thing. So the apples that you put outside, this is what... I learned a few years ago from a witch, and it actually works really well for me. The apples that you put outside, you put it outside so that the spirits of the land, that could be rats, will ward off any negative spirits that are around your house, that are trying to come near your home. Squirrels are good luck. They represent harvest. So squirrels are good luck, in my opinion. They represent harvest. Yeah, so you can cut the apples in half to open up their protective properties. And they can also bring you prosperity as well. Yeah, so rats can be baneful working if that's the way that, you know, a baneful working was done against you. Squirrels are more of, squirrels are like represent harvest. I mean, if the rats eat the apples you leave outside, that's perfectly fine. That's protecting you from them, because they might become your friend and return to sender, you know, the baneful work. So here's the funny thing. Like, whenever I have demons sent to me, I end up befriending them and they leave me alone. And then they go back to the person that sent me. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, this person. I don't know why you sent me to bother this person. Where do you find Santa Muerte rituals? There is a great book about the Santa Muerte. Sam, do you have a Santa Muerte book? I want to show it. I don't work with the Santa Muerte because she's not one of my mysteries that I work with. But I do have a great book that I found about her, which is really, really great if you are a Santa Muerte devotee. I'm not of Mexican descent, so I don't work with the Santa Muerte. Although you don't have to be Mexican to work with her, but I do have already a lot of mysteries that I work with, so I didn't want to commit to her without having time to commit to her.
This is the best book I have.
So this is the best book out there for La Santísima Muerte, Secrets of the Santa Muerte. One of the best books out there. And in here, I think there's also a chapter. The only thing that I wouldn't suggest is in chapter 3, there's like a blood oath that you can make. I don't know about that, but I wouldn't really recommend that. But it's a really great read. Really great read. It's written by somebody who spent time in a Santa Muerte cult for a really long time. And she has a lot of really great information. This is a great book. If you want to learn about the Santa Muerte, it's called Secrets of the Santa Muerte. I don't usually recommend books because I just don't like to recommend anything that I'm not really 100,000% sure on. But this book is definitely a great one. It has great stuff in it if you are a devotee of the Santa Muerte. Where is it? I saw in here. I think they also... In here, there's also a list of different meanings of different animals that come to you. Let me see. The only thing I do is I do deliver messages from the Santa Muerte. I don't honor her or work with her because I just don't have time to, but I do deliver messages from her. Okay, so here, there's a whole list of what different animals mean. So, like ants, those are people that envy you. Be careful with envy. Apples represent taking advantage of favorable opportunities. Birds, inspiration or creativity. Let me see. Somebody asked about rats. Let's see what she says about rats in here. In different cultures, there's different representations. Rat, people want to take advantage of your good nature or that of a person for whom the candle was lit. The name of the book is Secrets of the Santa Muerte by Cressida Stone. So I'm not being paid to recommend this. This is just one of my recommendations. One of the best book I've ever found on how to work with any spirit is this one. Like I said, I don't work with her. I just don't have time to work with her because I have so many mysteries that I have to work for. But I do deliver messages from her. So very often she will come because I do readings, spirit guide readings, and I do spirit guide readings for people around the whole world. So I talk to spirits and deities from all over the world because I'm a spirit guide reader. And Santa Muerte comes through a lot for her devotees. Even if I don't know that they walk with her, even if I don't know that they venerate her, she will come through and she will give a message through me. So it's Secrets of the Santa Muerte. It's an amazing book if you work with the Santa Muerte. So according to Mexican culture, dogs represent turning to loyal friends for support. Also in Mexican culture, dogs are believed to be the first one that meets you at the first gate. Very similar to Egyptian culture, where dogs are the first ones to meet you because the dog is the god of death in Egypt. And in Mexico, I recently learned that if you disrespect dogs in life, they will not help you cross over. So, yeah, you have to pass the first gate by yourself. But in my ancestor veneration webinar, Prin Guede, who is the General Guede, Francisco, possesses me and talks about what happens after you die. What happened?
She's sick.
Oh, she probably ate something out there she wasn't supposed to. So, so what happens after you die is also part of the ancestor veneration webinar. My General Guede Francisco, one of the main Guede under the Baron of the Cemetery, possessed me in that webinar and explained to the group what happens after you die. So if you want to know more about that, you can join. You can grab that ancestor webinar. The ancestor webinar, you get 3 days to watch it, whereas the people who showed up live only got to watch it once. So you got 3 days to watch it. Meanings of dead birds outside your window. So for me, dead birds are a bad omen. Because birds are messengers. So if there is a dead bird, it's a bad omen. So I would highly recommend that if you have people that are constantly doing witchcraft on you or baneful work on you, that you book a consultation so that we can talk about cleansing and protection work for you. You can book a spiritual consultation on highpriestessmay.com. Because birds are messengers. Some birds are messengers from death. Some birds are messengers from spirit. Some birds are messengers from your ancestors. So that can be, when you have a dead bird, that can be a really bad sign that something bad is going to happen. It's a bad omen. Dead mice might represent, for some people, dead mice might represent like you're being protected from negative things. Let's see what if it's in here. Do they have mice in here? Like, for example, here, ravens for me are messengers from the spirits of death. But in here, they're said to be a bad omen of bad news. But La Santa Muerte will protect you if you turn to her. In my opinion, because I work with the spirits of death, usually the ravens and crows are messengers from the dead, letting me know something is happening, okay? Different cultures have different meanings. They don't have mice in here. I don't think. Mortar. I think mice and rats are the same. People trying to take advantage of you. So that might be the destruction of people that are trying to take advantage of you. Oh, Sam, look, we were talking about roosters yesterday. An imminent betrayal. We were talking about roosters yesterday. I'm sorry, like, I wish I had time to, like, work with the Santa Muerte more, because I think she's an amazing spirit. I just don't have time because I have so many mysteries that I work with already. So usually, like, when a rat or a mouse is dead, it's usually the destruction of your enemies, is what I just heard. My mysteries just said to me, it's the destruction of your enemies when a rat or a mouse is dead. When you feed a rat or a mouse, it represents turning your enemies into your friends. Blue jays in my culture are usually grandfather spirits. Blue jays are grandfather spirits. Cardinals are grandmother spirits. So different people might have different representations. And for me, the blue jay or the hummingbird or the, what is that other one? The woodpecker are grandfather spirits or father spirits that are looking out for you. And red cardinals are usually grandmother spirits or mother spirits that are looking out for you. But different cultures, depending on what culture you follow, is going to have different representations. You know, if you follow European witchcraft, it's going to have a different meaning than if you follow Mexican witchcraft, or if you follow, you know, Caribbean witchcraft, or if you follow whatever other witchcraft. Praying mantis is an interesting one. So praying mantis, I think that they kill their mate after they mate with them, right? The praying mantis, I believe. So I think that they are a symbol of toxic femininity. So usually, if you see a praying mantis, usually they represent like a toxic female that is after you. But some people see praying mantis as good luck and money bringers. So it really depends where you're from. Yeah, they bite the head off their mate. For some people, the praying mantis represents a divine feminine. Or kind of like you have the black widow spiders too, which do that, so. For some people, the praying mantis represents prosperity and success. So eclipse season is very chaotic. So eclipse season will destroy things that are no longer in your highest good. It will bring that to the surface. It will show you. So today's not the 28th, right? Tomorrow's the 28th? Yeah. Tomorrow is the height of the eclipse, the full moon eclipse, lunar eclipse in Taurus. So Taurus is the second house of the zodiac. It is the house that represents material goods, material things, jobs, material security, all that kind of stuff. So you always see moss representing Papa Legba. We don't associate moss with Papa Legba, but other lineages might. I don't specifically. I usually associate the monarch butterfly with Papalegba, which I just recently found out that the monarch butterfly is also associated with the ancestors in Mexican culture. So moths in my culture are bad luck. Usually moths are usually messengers that someone that you know is going to die in my culture. So if you have a job that's no longer serving your highest good, then tomorrow's eclipse might make you get fired or make you quit. Yeah, Santa Muerte, I've heard, also sends moths as a sign, as an omen of negative things to come. So it's usually if you turn to her, again, it's kind of like the raven. If you turn to her for help, she will help you. But in my culture, moths are usually negative spirits or lost spirits. Some moths are spirits that are lost. Yeah, in my culture, moths are usually spirits that are lost or negative messages, like negative news coming. Unless it's a white moth. Usually if it's a white moth, it's related to a benevolent ancestor trying to get a message to you. So mediums get a lot of moths a lot of the times because mediums get visited by a lot of lost spirits. So if you get a lot of moths, either you have a lot of bad news coming or you have a lot of lost spirits coming to you asking for help, and you just think that it's a moth. But you're really a medium and you might not know it. So lost spirits might be asking for your help. So we just had a solar eclipse in Libra. One of the first solar eclipses, I think, that are going to happen for I don't know, somebody said something about 200 years. But the solar eclipse in Libra destroyed everything that was bringing you out of balance. Yeah, the solar eclipse. We are in the middle of a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse. This is like the most awesome time. Because so many psychic abilities opened up during this time. So many people third eye open. So many people got their magical abilities. So many people got their spiritual abilities. So there was a solar eclipse in Libra and these lunar eclipses in Taurus. I'm pretty sure. Tomorrow the moon is in Taurus, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because last month the full moon was in Aries. So this month the full moon is in Taurus. So a lot of love, and not just money, but also love, because remember that that Taurus also represents motherhood, divine femininity, the Empress card. Hold on, let me see if I can find her. So tomorrow is the full moon lunar eclipse. Like, how perfect to have a lunar eclipse right before the Day of the Dead. Like, come on. That is awesome. Let me see if I can find the Empress card. So remember, the Empress represents the Taurus. And Taurus is not just about financial security, but it's also about financial stability, home security, relationship security, motherhood. That's Taurus. That's the energy of Taurus. So Tomorrow is really going to challenge you to look at, like, how are your relationships supporting you and how are they draining you. They could also challenge you to see how your job is supporting you and how your job is draining you. For some of you, it already started. I know some of you, the lunar eclipse in Taurus already started like a week ago. Because some of you, I know for a fact, some of you are like, this job is trying to take way too much from me and not give me enough back. So tomorrow it's going to really challenge you to look at this, to look at like, how are you what your self-love, your receiving ability, whether you're able to receive. It's gonna force you to look at, how you are setting yourself for stability and for financial success. It's gonna kind of make you look at everything, love and money wise. Tomorrow's also a great day. If you don't mind things not turning out exactly as you expect them to, tomorrow would also be a great day to do some love and money work. But I do warn you, if you do work on the lunar eclipse, you might get what you want, but not in the way that you expect it to come. Because lunar eclipse energy, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse energy is destructive energy. So it's going to destroy whatever thing is keeping you stuck, and it's going to bring in freedom in ways that you might not expect it to. What does that mean? That means you might do a spell tomorrow to attract a lover. Well, or to strengthen your relationship. Well, that might end up being like, you might end up breaking up with the current person you're with in order to have a stronger relationship. Or like you might do a working, like you might do a spell for work, and you might end up losing your job in order to get the job you want. So, like I said, eclipse energy don't give a F about how it's going to inconvenience you. It's going to give you what you want, and sometimes not in the way that you expect it to. Well, there you go. So you did a spell for money on Scorpio during the eclipse in April, and they took your man away from you. So either your man was taking money from you, that they were like, or they were like, okay, she got no man, now she got more time to make money. So you have time to work overtime because you're single. So you see what I mean? When you do magic on the eclipse, expect it to give you what you want in the most unexpected way. That might be by taking somebody out of your life that, taking somebody out of your life that was either draining you or telling you. Eclipse magic is chaotic. I teach that to my students in the lunar magic course. If you are doing lunar magic, the best times to do lunar magic are the new moon and the full moon. But if you're doing eclipse magic, expect it to be chaotic. Expect it to turn out differently than you thought it was going to turn out. You're still going to get what you want, but it's going to probably turn out differently than you expected it to. No, I mean, you can still, eclipse energy is the strongest energy to do work in, but if you're open to whatever the eclipse will bring you, by all means, use it to do work tomorrow. So if you're open to a little bit of chaos and fun, do it. I think chaos is fun sometimes because you can remove things that are no longer serving you, and you know, you can do extreme cleansing and protection tomorrow. I heard one time somebody did protection magic on an eclipse, and they ended up inviting in Lilith to their house because Lilith rules eclipse energy. So she was like, I want my house to be protected. She did the work on a lunar eclipse. She did a protection spell on lunar eclipse. So then the goddess of chaos was the one who ended up protecting her house, and now she works with Lilith, and Lilith, you know, has been with her since then, since like 3 or 4 years ago. When you get your All Hallows Eve box, tag me. You can also leave a review on my Etsy shop. I would greatly appreciate it. So this whole live, you're gonna want to watch the replay, Chick to Love, because I talked about that. The beginning of this whole live was about how to honor your dead, your dearly departed, and how tips for honoring your dead, your dearly departed, celebrating with them during All Hallows Eve, during All Hallows Day, and during November 2nd, which is the day of the Barangede. Also, if you want to go more in depth, you can join my ancestor veneration webinar, which the link for that is available on my website, highpriestessmay.com. Don't hide in fear, though. Thank you. I'm glad you love my oils. If your page is private, it might not come to me, but you can leave a review with a picture on my Etsy shop. Don't mess up my 5 stars, y'all. Yeah, so you can watch the replay. My hope is that everybody will get their box by today or by tomorrow, so that way they can use it for All Hallows Eve.
I think some Californians are getting it already. Some other Californians may take it until tomorrow or the next day.
Thank you, Ship Parade. I appreciate that. What can you burn against psychic attacks? Camphor. When am I coming to DR? When God lets me. I've been trying the last couple of years, but things have just been too chaotic. And when I have gone to DR the last couple of years, it's been more for personal reasons, not work reasons. If I come to DR, I might come to Punta Cana next, or Puerto Plata, for personal reasons. And then also to visit my grandfather's grave. Hello, Ingrid. So that's it, y'all. What are you gonna do for celebrating your All Hallows Eve? My family is from San Francisco de Macorís. But it's been a long time since I've been to Puerto Plata or Punta Cana. Like I was a baby last time I went. So I'm like, I need to go to Punta Cana or Puerto Plata. But my family is from San Francisco de Macorís. So I will probably go there to visit my grandfather's grave at some point this year. Go to La Terrenas. I think I've been to La Terrenas. One time, I went there with my grandfather to pick up some bath stuff, to pick up some like plants. Yeah, DR definitely looks very different now. DR is definitely advancing. I know Santo Domingo looks almost like you're in America at in some places. I think everybody should honor their ancestors. I mean, it's because of them that we are here and that we have everything that we have. They suffered so that we don't have to. Yeah, so apples are a symbol of protection. That's why they have a pentacle on the inside. When you cut it, it has a star on the inside, which is a symbol of protection of the goddess. It's okay. They can think you're crazy. You're going to have the last laugh when you get to the judgment room. Listen, if anybody thinks you're crazy for your spiritual beliefs, trust me, you're going to have the last laugh. I'm going to say the one that laughs the loudest. Yeah, it does kind of look like Florida. But I mean, Florida and Dominican Republic were colonized by the same people. So that's why it does look very similar. Especially like St. Augustine looks very similar to certain parts of Santo Domingo because they were colonized by the same people. Yeah, so yeah. Trust me. If you haven't seen my ancestor veneration webinar, one of my spirit guides possesses and talks about what happens after death and your judgment and all of that, and trust me, you will have the last laugh. They can mock you, but I know for a fact that I do one of the best readings there are. Laughs on them. That's because they're jealous because they can't afford to read with me. That's all. I know for a fact that I have been told thousands of times that my reading is one of the best readings anybody has ever gotten. And I give way more information than a lot of other readers do. That's just the most humble way that I can put it. I read for thousands of psychics because they know how good my readings are. Thank you, Ingrid. I'm glad that you enjoyed the Ancestor Veneration webinar. I actually wanted to read something to you guys. I was actually reading the history of Christianity and witchcraft the other day. Let's see. Hold on. I was just reading some more history between, like, the war between witchcraft and Christianity, and I thought this was really interesting. Let me see if I can find it. In the early days, when Christianity was slowly growing in strength, the old religion, the Wiccans and the pagans, was one of their rivals. It is only natural to want to get rid of a rival, and the church pulled no punches to do just that. It has frequently been said that the gods of the old religion became devils of the new. This was certainly the case here. The god of the old religion was the horn god, so apparently was the Christian's devil. Obviously then, reasoned the church, the pagans were devil worshippers. This type of reasoning is used by the church even today. Missionaries were particularly prone to the label all primitive tribes upon whom they stumbled as devil worshippers because they honored the gods of nature. Okay, So this is from a book by one of the main leaders of witchcraft, known as Buckland. It would not matter to the Christians that the people were good, happy, often morally and ethically better living than the mass majority of Christians. They had to be converted. The charge of devil worship, so often leveled at witches, is ridiculous. The devil is a purely Christian invention, there being no mention of him as such before the New Testament. In fact, it is interesting to note that the whole concept of evil associated with the devil is due to the error in translation. The original Old Testament Hebrew, ha-satan, and the New Testament Greek, diabolos, simply means opponent or adversary. It should be remembered that the idea of dividing the supreme power into two, good and evil, is the idea of an advanced and complex civilization. The old gods, though, their gradual development, were very much human in that they would have their good side and their bad side, which is what we believe in voodoo and in Norse mythology. It was the idea that all good and all loving deity that necessitated an antagonist. In simple language, you can only have a color white if there is the opposite color black, to which you can, compare it. The view of an all-good God was developed by the Zoroasters, which was in Persia and was done in the 7th century BCE. Okay, so listen to this. Also, another thing that I found really, really disturbing. Where is it? Let me see if I can find it really quickly. As Christianity gradually grew in strength, so the old religion was slowly pushed back. Until about the time of the Reformation, the old religion still existed in outlying country districts. Non-Christians at the time became known as pagans and heathens. Pagan comes from the Latin word pagani and simply means people who live in the country. The word heathen means one who dwells in the heath. So the term was appropriated for non-Christians at the time, but they bore no connotation of evil, and their use today is a derogatory sense and is quite incorrect. As the centuries passed, the smear campaign against non-Christians continued. What the Wiccans did was reversed and used against them. They did magic to promote fertility and to increase the crops. The church claimed that they made women and cattle barren and blighted the crops. No one apparently stopped to think that if the witches really did what they were accused of, they would suffer equally themselves. After all, they too had to eat, to live. An old ritual act for fertility was for the villagers to go to the fields in the light of the full moon and to dance around the field astride pitchforks, poles, and broomsticks, riding them like hobby horses. They would leap high in the air as they danced in the ritual to show the crops how high to grow, a harmless enough form of sympathetic magic. Yet the church claimed not only that they were working against the crops, but that they were actually flew through the air on their poles, surely the work of the devil. Okay. In 1484, Pope Innocent VIII produced his bull against witches. 2 years later, two infamous German monks, Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Springer, produced their incredible concoction of anti-witchery, the Malus Maleficarum, the witch's hammer. Okay, in this book, definite instructions were given for the persecution of witches. When the book was submitted to the theological faculty of the University of Cologne, however, the appointed censor of the time, the majority of the professors refused to have anything to do with it. Kramer and Sprenger, undaunted, forced the approbation of the whole faculty, a forgery that was not discovered until 1898. Okay, people didn't become religious because they chose to. They became religious because they were forced to, otherwise they would die. And here it talks about how like 9 million people were killed and they didn't care. Listen to this. The hysteria kindled by Kramer and Sprenger began to spread. It spread like wildfire, flashing up suddenly in unexpected places, spreading quickly across the whole of Europe. For nearly 300 years of the fires of persecutions raged. Humankind had gone mad. The inhabitants of entire villages where 1 or 2 witches were suspected of living, were put to death with the cry, "Destroy them all, the Lord will know his own." In 1586, the Archbishop of Treves decided that the local witches had caused a recent severe winter. By dint of frequent torture, a confession was obtained, and 120 men and women were burned to death on the charge that they had interfered with the elements. Since fertility was of great importance, fertility of the crops and beasts, there were certain sexual rites enacted by the Wicca as followers of the nature religion. These sexual rites seem to have been given unnecessary prominence by the Christian judges, who seemed to delight in prying into the most intimate details concerning them. The rites of the craft were joyous in essence. It was extremely happy religion, and so was in many ways totally incomprehensible to the gloomy inquisitors and reformers who sought to suppress it. A rough estimate of a total number of people burned, hanged, and tortured to death on the charge of witchcraft is 9 million. Only in Europe. That's not even counting the Caribbean, Africa, or the United States. Okay? Obviously, not all of these were followers of the old religion. This had been a wonderful opportunity for some to get rid of anyone whom they bore a grudge against. An excellent example of the way in which hysteria developed and spread is found in the case of the so-called witches of Salem, Massachusetts. So any Christian that tells you that they don't persecute people is a fucking liar. They are liars. They are liars, and they project all of their evil on other people. Okay? And the spirits told me that Kramer and Sprenger, these monks were actually demons. That were leading this charge. Because also it was also heresy to not believe in the devil. They lie like a rug for sure. For sure. Even our African ancestors that defended or joined Christianity only did so because they were fear-mongered into doing it. They were tortured into doing it. They were killed if they didn't join Christianity. Very few people other than the Anglo-Saxons actually willingly joined Christianity. And if you read a lot of history, not just from a Wiccan or a witchcraft perspective, but from an unbiased perspective, you will notice that it was mostly the royalty that embraced Christianity, and when the people didn't embrace it, like Catherine of Aragon, she burned people alive who didn't accept Catholicism. Even the people who were Christian, not Catholic, because her father converted to what was it? Lutheran? I don't remember, but her father converted to Christian rather than Catholic because he wanted to divorce, not her father, I'm sorry, her husband. So Mary of Aragon and then Queen Mary, the mother and daughter, they were both Catholics. And they would kill people. Bloody Mary is based off of the daughter of Queen Catherine of Aragon. So Queen Catherine, I don't know why I said Queen Mary, I meant Queen Catherine and Queen Mary, they literally killed any non-Catholic, even the Christians, because Mary's father, who was also Queen Elizabeth's father, reformed the Church of England in order to be able to divorce Catherine and marry Anne Boleyn, who was the mother of Queen Elizabeth I. So Catherine of Aragon, she was the Spanish queen. You can actually watch the show about her. The show is called The Spanish Queen. And then Queen Mary is Spanish and English. And she was the Bloody Mary because she would kill people, massive amount of people. Anyone who worshipped anything but the Catholic religion, whether it was Christians or non-Christians. This book, you're talking about the witchcraft book. This book is The Complete Book of Witchcraft by Buckland. Sorry, Buckland. I'm mixing up his name. The Complete Book of Witchcraft. So he talks about the history of witchcraft before that, and then he talks about the different gods and goddesses in witchcraft. He talks about different witchcraft things. I think I put this book on my recommended list, my Amazon recommended list. It's one of the books that I recommend that my students read. The stuff that now this is witchcraft based on European witchcraft. My course, my magical and spiritual course, is based on my personal witchcraft practice. So if you want to learn European witchcraft, The Complete Book of Witchcraft by Buckland is the way to go. Well, it's really European witchcraft, Americanized European witchcraft. Okay, I recommended this in my magical VIP course. Raymond Buckland. He was the one who basically one of the first people to stand up for witchcraft here in the United States. But his witchcraft is based off of British witchcraft. My Amazon recommendation list is available to all of my VIP students, and it should be on my link tree.
It's on your link tree right now.
Oh, I have to.
We were gonna revise.
Oh yeah, I took it off. I took it down from my link tree because I was revising it, but I'm gonna put it back up today or tomorrow. Remind me to put it back up. So my recommendation list for like tarot decks and for books, I do make a little tiny commission off of whatever you buy off of that list, but I don't put anything on that list unless I truly, honestly like the book. So it's cents. I'm only gonna get cents, so it's not like I'm getting paid millions for recommending the book. And some of them don't even pay you. So. Yeah, in the Book of Pain, it said that 2 Taino men were hanged because they buried some Catholic symbols for good harvest, like they did before colonial times. Yeah, it's Catholic and Christian people. I'm sorry, but you all are crazy. I'm sorry. Like one time, somebody I knew asked me why I wasn't Catholic, like why I wasn't following the Catholic religion, because they followed the Catholic religion, but they also like dabbled in the 21 divisions. And I was like, because I'm not going to support a religion that hates me. What? And he looked at me like I had 10 heads. I'm like, I'm not going to support a religion that persecutes me as a person. Like, God made me exactly the way I am. If God didn't want me to be this way, God would have made me different. If God is all powerful, then God would have made me exactly the way he wanted me to be, which is what I believe. So I don't believe in the Catholic thing of, oh, God doesn't want you to do that, and God doesn't want you to do that, and God doesn't want you to do that. No, I believe that God wants you to be a good person, which is what my mysteries have told me, who have actually been on the other side and talked to God. God wants me to be a good person. God doesn't want me to hurt people. That is my only job here on earth, is to learn to be a good person and to not hurt people. Some people think that Anacaona and Anaísa Pie are the same being, but in my tradition, they're not. They're two different beings. Anacaona in my tradition comes from Taino descent, and Anaísa Pie in my tradition comes from African descent. Because Anais is another version of Anaísa Pie is Anais, who is the daughter of Ezeli Danto, and Ezeli Danto is from Dahomey originally. But there's a story that she was transported to Quisqueya, where she became a petroloa. and Anais is her daughter. There's stories in Haitian voodoo that Anacaona is part of the water division. She is the water division. The Sweetwater division is the division of the beings from the Quisqueya. The division of Agua Dulce, which are the Taíno spirits, like el Príncipe Carmelo, el Indio Caunabo, el Indio Aracuananí, el Gran Toro del Monte. I'm forgetting somebody. Anacaona, obviously. Anacaona is the main one because she was our chief. El Gran Toro del Monte, yeah. I believe the Puerto Rican cacique, I think her name was Ana Luisa, I believe. But in DR, I believe Ana Luisa was Puerto Rican. Yeah, they apply to PR too, but they're slightly different because Canacaona was the cacique for what we now know as Dominican Republic. Cacique Yuisa was, I believe, the Puerto Rican one. And then Haiti had, Anacaona was born in Port-au-Prince, I believe. Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Yemaya is Nigerian. Yemaya is of Nigerian descent. She is an Orisha. So Orishas and Loas are different. So Loa are more voodoo based, and the Taíno spirits are indigenous, and the Orisha are Nigerian from the Yoruba tribe. So it's different tribes. Why would Anacaona appear? So somebody could be one of the people walking with you. If a being comes to you, it's usually because they walk with you. Like for example, I don't practice Ifa, which is the main religion of the Nigerian Yoruban people. But I don't practice Ifa, but I have relationships with the Orishas, the 7 African powers, which are known as the Orishas in my lineage. The 7 African powers in my lineage are the Orishas. Okay, but they're considered a different pantheon than the Voodoo pantheon. The Voodoo pantheon is from Benin. Some of them are from the Congo, and some of them are Benin used to be Dahomey and New Guinea. So New Guinea and Benin used to be the kingdom of Dahomey, or the tribe of Dahomey, which if you watch the movie The Woman King, it's about the tribe of Dahomey. Ifa comes, that's where voodoo originates. The tribe of Dahomey is the mother of voodoo. And there's also Eastern voodoo, which is in South Egypt. Okay? So Yoruba people worked with the Orisha, which is a different tribe. But when the slave trade happened, people from Nigeria and from Dahomey were taken. So, And they were taken to La Quisqueya, which was then turned into La Hispaniola, which is now present day Puerto Rico. Present day Dominican Republic and Haiti. And Puerto Rico too. So the Woman King is about the Dahomeyan people. The Dahomeyan people were the ones who worked with the Loa, because the Loa are seen as representatives on earth, representatives between Papa Bondie and Mama Bondie and the humans. So the practices got mixed in La Quisqueya because both of the Nigerian and the Nigerian now, but they used to be known as the Yoruban people. The Yoruba people and the Dahomean people were transported during the slave trade to La Hispaniola, which was La Quisqueya at the time. And then the now Nigerian and Benin people. So I'm going to actually refer to them, as I tell this, in their tribal name. So their tribal name was Dahomey, which is where Metresili Frida is from. Metresili Frida of Dahomey, who is the aunt of Anais, according to my research and according to the messages I've received from Spirit. Is the aunt of Anais, is one of the sisters of Eslidanto. Eslidanto is the mother of Anais. So Anais Apie is from African descent, and she also has indigenous descent. So from the knowledge that I have of Anais Apie, she is both Taino and African. But Anacaona is purely Taino. She was, the Taino people were there before the Africans set foot on the island, or before the Europeans set foot on the island. So the Taino Arawak were there first in Dominican Republic, where we now call it Dominican Republic, and Haiti. But before, Haiti and Dominican Republic were one nation. What the Spaniards did was that they pushed all of the black people went to the less fertile part of the island, which is Haiti. Okay, this was an act of severe racism. Okay, the Spaniards took all of the black people and all of the indigenous people, and they pushed them to the less fertile parts of the land, which were the parts where we now know as Haiti. Okay. And they wanted to keep the best fertile land, which is why they kept Dominican Republic. And why they continue to perpetuate hatred and racism towards Haitian people. Okay? Which actually hurts the mysteries, because the Haitian people are their children, just like the Dominican people are their children as well. You also got to realize that in Dominican Republic, indigenous magic was mixed, African magic was mixed, French magic was mixed, and Spaniard magic was mixed. In Spain, the main magical traditions of Spain were derived from the Celtic tribes, which were the European Celtic tribes. So in the Caribbean, you have a mixture of indigenous magic, African magic, Celtic magic, and Spaniard Catholicism. From the information I received from Spirit, Mata la Dominadora is Haitian and Dominican. And Mata la Morena. So Mata la Dominadora la Morena, which is the black one. She is Haitian and Dominican. So she's from Quisqueya, basically. But she also is similar to Aida Wedo, who is the rainbow snake in Haiti. So some people believe Mata la Dominadora to be one of the faces of Aida Wedo, because Mata la Dominadora has 9 paths. So Mata la Dominadora, the one with the snakes, the one with the black with the snakes, is believed to be one of the faces of Aida Wedo, who is the rainbow snake, who is the mate of Dambala, the primordial Loa Dambala. But a lot of people in Dominican Republic deny this because they don't want to claim that they're black, because back in the middle of the 1900s, there was a rule by There was a propaganda about bettering the race by denying that you're black and by marrying white people to try to whiten your color. If you don't know your history, Dominicans, research, okay? So in the middle of the 1900s, there was a dictator in Dominican Republic who wanted to better the race, okay? And led by racist beliefs. This is a perfect time to be talking about this. He made a chart where he depicted that you were better based on whatever color, the lighter you were, the lighter skinned you were, the better you were. The more you resembled the wealthy, the more you resembled the better humans, because they demonized being black. They demonize being black. So if you are somebody who practices 21 divisions and you're racist, you are going against the mysteries, because most of the misterios are African. They're black, my loves. Yeah, it was like the caste system. And then that same system was used during slavery here, where it was like if you were a child of a slave with a master that sexually assaulted that slave, you came out my color, you were a mulatto, which down here, when I moved down here, I started being called, some people were calling me a mulatto, like derogatorily. Actually, a person of color called me a mulatto, and I was like, in a derogatory way, which is why in 2020, at one point, I was like, you know, people of color can be prejudiced and racist too, because that, if you don't know your history, that is a racist thing to say, okay? And I got eaten alive by some of y'all, okay? But y'all don't know what I was talking about. So there is racism. It's called colorism, but there is racism within the Hispanic and people of color community, which I think is completely wrong. Okay, so when I got down here to Florida, a person of color called me a mulatto, which is basically calling me a child of rape. Yeah. So like down here, like in the south of the United States, and in Haiti and Dominican Republic, a lot of colorism happens, where it's like, oh, the lighter you are, the more you are respected, the more like you're favored. Okay. And it's actually kind of like everywhere. Like I was watching a documentary about European people, and there's like so much hate between like the Russians and the Germans, and I'm like, y'all are all white. Like, why are you hating on each other? Like, what is going on? So, yeah, it all comes from colonization. I'm just like, guys, come on. We are in 2023. Can we please stop it with this thing? A lot of being darker skinned was demonized by the colonizers as a way to separate us. As a way to separate us, because they knew together we were more powerful than apart. So and also as a way to also make us shun our African spiritual practices, because they were afraid of the African spiritual practices. Because Haiti freed itself with the use of voodoo through the Haitian Revolution. The Spaniards did not want that to happen, so they started demonizing the voodoo as much as possible. And also to justify their persecution of the indigenous and African ancestors. I'm not saying that people don't use voodoo for negative things, but the 90%, 80% of voodoo is used for positive things. The funny thing is that Christians also use, Christians are hypocrites, because this is why Jesus couldn't stand a lot of people, because he hated hypocrisy. So if you read the Bible, Jesus in the part about Jesus, they talk about how Jesus hated hypocrites. Catholics are the biggest hypocrites because they have altars, they burn incense, they have flowers, they do all of that stuff. They drink the blood of Christ. Thank you very much. The body and the blood of Christ, which is like human sacrifice. But if you do it, you're going to hell. They say incantations and chants. They collect your energy every Sunday. But if you do it, oh my God, you're going to go to hell. Come on. That's just silly. That's just silly. And I can say that as somebody who grew up half Catholic. Listen, in the words of one of my Taino ancestors, if they are going to heaven, I'd rather go to hell. One of the Taino caciques, I think he was the cacique of Cuba, said as one of his last dying words, if Christians are going to heaven, I'd rather go to hell. It's sad. It's internalized racism. It's internalized racism. I'd rather die than lose my connection with my mysteries. Because they've already stolen so much from us. The Spaniards stole so much from us. And this is a big conversation I had to have with my Spaniard ancestors. Because I wasn't honoring my Spaniard ancestors for a really long time. And then they were like, hey, we would like to work with you. We would like for you to help us, blah, blah, whatever. And no offense. And I didn't want to work with them for a while. And then I had to have a huge conversation with them about the racism and all of that. And some of them I still don't honor. I still don't work with. No, the partner of Ana Caona was El Príncipe Caonabo. Not Príncipe Caonabo, El Lindo Caonabo. Caonabo was Caona's, I believe. Am I mixing him up with Príncipe Carmelo? Some people say it was Príncipe Carmelo. Some people say it was El Lindo Caonabo. You can look up Taino history. No, Hatui was, I believe, the Cuban cacique. Yeah, it's really sad that a lot of Dominicans have internalized racism. And I'm going to say it until the end of my life. A lot of Dominicans have internalized racism. Documentaries. No, there's a lot of books. There's Taino books that I would recommend, but not documentaries. On my list, I have books. There's not really any documentaries that I know of. Taino documentaries. I watched a documentary that had a little mention of some of the Taino spirits, but not. What? Oh yeah, there's a page. There's a professor who is Taino. He's from Luisa, I believe. No, I'm sorry, from Isabel, Dominican Republic. And he is amazing. His name is his at is at Taino Studies. He is a professor of indigenous Taino history and language. He's recreating the language of the Taino people. So if you want to learn more about the Taino people, I would recommend about their history and their language. And I believe he also does some spiritual knowledge. He talks about the semis. The semis are what we know as our head spirits in 21 divisions. The semi, he's Dominican. He's not Dominican. He's Taino. He's purebred Taino. His family escaped. I believe he talked about how I might be wrong, but his family escaped into the mountains during colonization, and his tribe is one of the last fully Taino tribes. Huh? Yeah, he's fully Taino. So he's a professor. He's a young man. I think he's like in his 20s or early 30s, and he's been studying Taino culture his whole life. He's from the island, yeah. Alfonso, he lives there. The Mexicans, you have to realize Mexico is a very different tribe. The Arawak, there were some Arawak in South America, and there was some Arawak in the Caribbean. But you have to realize there were hundreds of different nations of indigenous tribes in the United States. Even the Tainos, like Tainos were in South Florida, in the Caribbean, right? They had problems with the indigenous people of North Florida, and they had battles with them. They had fights with them, huh? Yeah, they had problems with the Seminoles. They had problems with the Timucua. They had problems with a lot of different tribes in Florida. When the Spaniards got here, they thought that they were going to help them fight the other indigenous tribes that they were going up against. And that didn't happen. What ended up happening was just, the colonization and mass murder and massacre of the Taino people. We have to realize Mexico is completely different tribes. You also have to think about how could they travel back then. It would take a very long time to travel and to exchange between them. Yeah, because they're the original people from Dominican Republic. And you got to realize the Taino people were also like my color or slightly darker. Yeah, the original Arawak, which was the tribe for the Taino people. Taino is the word that was used by the Spaniards to describe the Arawak people. The Arawak people of the Caribbean, the word Taino, I read in a few different historical books. The word Taino actually meant I can't understand you. And when Columbus was asking, like, what are your people called? What are your people called? The indigenous people kept saying Taino, Taino, Taino. Like, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. And then that was turned into the Taino people. Huh?
Lost in translation.
Yeah. So according to some historical, things, the true name for them is the Arawak. And Taino means my people, or, were believed to mean my people by the Spaniards, because the Spaniards were like, what are you called? Who are you? Who are you? And the Tainos kept repeating Taino, 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 saying, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. Also, the Spaniards, when they got there, stunk really, really, really bad because they didn't shower more than like once a month. So they started burning incense, and the Spaniards thought that the Taino thought that they were gods because they were burning incense. And in reality, they were burning incense because they stunk so badly. Okay? They smelled so bad because they didn't shower. And Tainos were very big. Let me stop calling them Taino. The Arawak were very big. The indigenous people in general, if you look at most indigenous tribes, they were very big on cleanliness. They were very big on showering. That's why they're called the sweet water spirits, because they like to go into the rivers and bathe, and they had soap nuts that they used for like soap. So they were very big on hygiene, whereas the Europeans were not. The Europeans, they don't like to shower very often. If you watch the Spanish Queen, there's like a reference to it. If you watch the Spanish Queen show, the English are like, oh, we only shower once a week, or we only bathe once a week. And one of the Moor girls is like, one of the servants of the Spanish queen is like, no, my queen has to shower like every other day or every day or something like that. Yeah, so like the cleansing smoke, they burned a whole bunch of like cleansing plants and incense and resin and all that to get rid of the smell. Okay, that's what happened. That they weren't worshiping the Spaniards or the Europeans. Yeah, they used to, and there's many historical accounts of where, I'm not making fun of the Europeans. This is your history, y'all. Except the Vikings. Actually, the Vikings, the Nordic people had a lot more hygiene. They would shower more often. But people like, oh, there was a story from a historian that, you know, the House of Versailles, which is like a really fancy house, fancy manor in France. During its peak time, the French people there would pee and poo on the spot, and servants would have to follow them around, like picking up their pee and poo. Like, that is, I'm sorry, but kind of gross. Where in Africa, a lot of the people from Africa would bathe with sand, would actually use dirt to clean themselves. That's where mud baths the idea of mud baths came from, because they would use like red clay or sand to clean themselves, to remove like germs and stuff, and to remove bacteria off their skin. Yeah. Yeah. The things you find out when you do a little bit of reading and research about some practices. Well, you know, like Avatar Way of Water is kind of like an homage to the people of the Arawak people. So like the Arawak, you know, the people of the Caribbean, the indigenous of Florida and the Caribbean, they were water people. They were always in the water. So that's why it's called Avatar Way of Water. But Alfonso, who is the professor of Taino studies, he is amazing. At least in what I've seen so far of him, he is amazing. He teaches Taino history. He teaches about Taino spirituality. He doesn't teach 21 divisions, because 21 divisions is different. 21 divisions is the mixture of all of the different practices. But he teaches, he's recreating the Taino language. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So if you haven't seen his page at Taino Studies, I would highly recommend him. Professor Alfonso. And I want to say, like, I do not have anything against white people. People think that because I say some things about history that I have things against white people. I don't. I have a lot of white people that surround me all the time. My wife is white. My new family is white. Okay, I'm half white, but it's just the truth of the history. Okay? I do not discriminate against anybody's race, okay? But we have to still, if we're going to heal, we have to acknowledge the truth of what happened. In order to heal, we have to acknowledge what happened in the past. This is what happens in therapy, right? So when you have childhood trauma in therapy, the first thing that they make you like really focus on is on healing what happened in the past. I love old people. I love white people. I love Black people. I love Spanish people. I love Asian people. I love learning about every place around the world. But in order to heal, we have to acknowledge what happened in the past. We can't just write over it and get over it. If we want to heal and we want to come together, everything that happened between our ancestors, we need to discuss it and forgive and move on. But we can't forgive if we don't discuss, if we don't acknowledge what happened. We have to acknowledge the generational trauma and intergenerational trauma in order to move forward and heal as one people. So like when you go to therapy, you know, when you are healing issues from this lifetime, your therapist is going to make you focus on, okay, what happened in your childhood? Like you're not going to be able to go, okay, boom, you came to therapy, you're fixed. No, you have to look at the trauma there. Our ancestors have a lot of trauma that happened between them because of race, because of religious beliefs. Like I just read from the book here, religious different belief systems. You know, witchcraft has been around since about 40,000 years ago. And, you know, religions like Christianity and Judaism and these more monotheistic religions really only came into being about 6,000 to 2,000 years ago, but they want to act like they have been the only ones forever. And we have to acknowledge that there is a huge problem with discrimination. There's a huge problem with persecution of other people based on religion, based on race, based on internalized racism, based on gender, so many issues. Yeah, if you're the only one in your family doing it, Spirit just wants you to have boundaries with them and, you know, heal it in yourself, because when you heal you start to heal your ancestors. Okay, so this was a great talk for tips on celebrating the Day of the Dead. All right, everyone. Yes, thank you, Jaguar. I appreciate it. Yeah. So for those of you who are getting your ancestor All Hallows Eve mystery box today or this weekend, make sure you leave a review on my my Etsy shop and tag me if you post it in your socials. I would love to see it. And you can burn the candle on either All Hallows Eve or All Hallows Day, or on November 2nd, but usually All Hallows Eve or All Hallows Day would be the best time. But that candle can be used at any time that you want as well. Also, last but not least, so I don't forget, almost forgot, I am doing a reading party. So if you want to be read during the celebration of All Hallows Eve, I am doing it on the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. I am doing readings from Spirit. So if you want to join my Halloween reading party, you can grab your spot at my link in bio. And all sales and open enrollment for my courses end on October 31st. And like I said, my academy is going to be taking a break for a while. So if you are not joined by October 31st, then you will have to wait until Spirit gives me permission to reopen it. The live readings will be on TikTok. This is my first time going live on TikTok. So the live readings will be on TikTok. Join TikTok just for me that day, and then you can get off of it. His Spirit is asking me to go do it on TikTok this time. I'm going to try it out, see if I like it. If I don't like it, then whatever. If I like it, then maybe I'll start posting more on TikTok. But yeah, so the live reading party is because IG is not notifying people when I post. So I'm doing it live on TikTok. And if TikTok doesn't work out for me, then I'm just going to revert back to YouTube. We'll see. So the live reading party will be on, there's only a certain number of spots per night. So if you want to be read either on the 29th, on the 30th, or the 31st, I used to only do it on the 31st, but a lot of people would be like, man, I wish I would have been able to get a spot. There was only like 8 spots available before, but I did allow a few more spots this time. So if you want to be read on the 29th, the 30th, or the 31st, you get to pick what day you want to be read. And then I will read you based on the list. So if you want to join the party on my TikTok, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. Link is in my bio. All right. Many blessings.